They were never supposed to exist. Some were denied for decades. Some were buried so deep that the engineers who built them took the secrets to their graves. This is not a list of the most powerful weapons of the Cold War. This is a list of the ones you were never meant to know about. American weapons. The A-12 Oxcart, CIA's Mach 3 Ghost. Before the SR-71 existed, there was the A-12. Built in secret by Lockheed's Skunk Works under CIA contract, it flew at Mach 3.2 at 90,000 feet. The airframe heated to over 300 degrees from air friction alone. When pilots died in crashes, their families were told the accidents happened on unspecified missions in unmarked aircraft. 12 were built. The CIA flew them over the Soviet Union, China, and North Korea for years. The American public did not learn the aircraft existed until 1982, long after the last one had been retired to a warehouse in the Nevada desert. The SR-71 Blackbird, the untouchable. No SR-71 was ever shot down while operational. It flew at Mach 3.3, faster than a rifle bullet. Friction heated the airframe to over 500 degrees, requiring titanium construction. Paradoxically, 85% of that titanium was purchased from the Soviet Union through shell companies. The Soviets sold America the material used to spy on them. Over 4,000 missiles were fired at SR-71s during operational service. Every single one missed. The aircraft simply accelerated and flew away. The U-2 Dragon Lady, the spy that started a crisis. In 1960, CIA pilot Francis Gary Powers was shot down over the Soviet Union at 70,000 feet. The incident collapsed a scheduled Eisenhower-Khrushchev summit. Before the shoot-down, the U-2 had been photographing Soviet missile sites for 4 years. The United States claimed it was a weather research plane. 3 days later, the Soviets produced the wreckage, the spy cameras, and the pilot. The lie collapsed in real time on the world stage. Have Blue, the stealth proof of concept. In 1977, 2 unmarked aircraft flew from Area 51 with a radar cross-section the size of a marble. The shape was derived from a Soviet mathematical paper on electromagnetic scattering. The theoretical foundation of American stealth came from Soviet physics. Both prototypes crashed during testing. Both crashes were classified. The lessons were incorporated directly into the F-117, which became operational in 1983, 5 years before the US government admitted it existed. The F-117 Nighthawk, the plane that didn't exist. For 5 years, the US Air Force flew an operational combat aircraft it officially denied existed. F-117 pilots were prohibited from telling their families what they flew. When commercial satellite imagery began showing unusual aircraft at Tonopah, Nevada, the Air Force purchased the airspace above the base and threatened legal action against photographers. Publicly acknowledged in November 1988, by which point it had already flown classified combat missions in Panama. Tacit Blue. The Whale. Nicknamed The Whale, Tacit Blue was a classified stealth surveillance testbed that flew 135 secret missions between 1982 and 1985. Its curved, non-angular body demonstrated low observable technology without faceted surfaces. Its existence was not declassified until 1996. The technologies proven on Tacit Blue were incorporated directly into the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. It was not a weapon. It was the laboratory that made the weapon possible. The W-54 SADM, the backpack nuke. A nuclear weapon small enough to fit in a large backpack. Yield, between 10 tons and 1 kiloton. Adjustable by the operator. Special Forces soldiers were trained to parachute behind Soviet lines, place the device near a bridge or dam, set the timer, and attempt to escape. Given the blast radius relative to available timer settings, survival was not guaranteed and was likely not seriously expected. Approximately 300 were produced and deployed to Europe. Some of the men trained to carry them understood they were on a one-way mission. The Davy Crockett, the smallest nuclear weapon ever fielded. A recoilless rifle that fired a nuclear warhead the size of a watermelon. Minimum yield, 10 tons of TNT. Maximum range, 4 kilometers. Lethal radiation radius, 500 meters. The crew that fired it needed to immediately drive away at maximum speed to have any chance of survival. Over 2,000 were deployed to US Army units in Europe during the 1960s. Quietly withdrawn from service by 1971 without ever being fired in anger, because even Cold War planners concluded it was too dangerous to its own operators. Project Pluto/SLAM. The Flying Reactor. A nuclear ramjet cruise missile with an unshielded reactor open to the atmosphere, superheating air and expelling lethal radiation as exhaust. It would fly at Mach 3 at 150 meters altitude, deliver multiple nuclear warheads, then continue flying over Soviet territory, killing people with reactor exhaust. It could not be recalled. It could not be shot down at that speed and altitude. Cancelled in 1964, not for technical reasons, but because the Air Force considered it too indiscriminate, even by Cold War standards. The Glomar Explorer, the CIA's salvage ship. In 1968, Soviet submarine K-129 sank in the Pacific with 3 nuclear missiles aboard. The CIA decided to raise it. Cover story: Howard Hughes was building a deep-sea mining vessel. The real vessel secretly housed a mechanical claw designed to descend 5,000 meters and grip the submarine hull. During the 1974 lift, part of the submarine broke away. What was recovered remains partially classified. When journalists asked about the project, the CIA coined a response still used by governments worldwide: "We can neither confirm nor deny." Soviet weapons. The Alpha-class submarine, Titanium Ghost, the fastest attack submarine ever built. Titanium hull, invisible to NATO magnetic anomaly detectors. Liquid metal reactor cooled by lead bismuth alloy. Top speed, over 40 knots submerged, fast enough to outrun any torpedo fired at it. Soviet sailors called the reactor the Widowmaker. If the coolant solidified in port, restarting it could trigger a reactor accident. NATO knew the Alpha existed, but did not understand its true capabilities until a defecting Soviet naval officer provided technical details. Every NATO torpedo in service at the time was too slow to catch one at full speed. The Typhoon-class submarine, the largest ever built, at 175 meters long and 23,000 tons submerged, the Typhoon remains the largest submarine ever constructed. Built large deliberately so crews could live under Arctic ice for months, beyond NATO anti-submarine reach. Each carried 20 R-39 ballistic missiles with 10 independently targetable warheads each. Designed to break through Arctic ice, surface, and launch a second strike capable of destroying every major American city, even after absorbing a full US first strike. Tom Clancy fictionalized one as the Red October. The real ones were considerably more terrifying. Object 279, the nuclear tank built in 1959 for a battlefield where tactical nuclear weapons would be used. 4 parallel tracks spread weight across terrain impassable to any other vehicle. Hull shaped specifically to deflect the pressure wave of a nuclear detonation. Armor, 269 millimeters. Weight, 60 tons. Never mass-produced. Khrushchev cancelled all heavy tank programs in 1960, deciding the future was missiles. Only one prototype was built. It survives at the Kubinka Tank Museum outside Moscow, the sole remnant of a weapons philosophy abandoned before it could be deployed. Perimeter, dead hand. If Soviet leadership was destroyed in a nuclear strike, Perimeter would detect the attack through seismic sensors and radiation monitors, then automatically authorize the launch of every remaining Soviet nuclear weapon, without human input. American intelligence did not learn of its existence until the Soviet Union collapsed. Former Soviet generals confirmed it had been operational since 1985. It is believed to still be active under Russian control today. A machine, running on servers somewhere in Russia, remains empowered to end civilization if its sensors determine the moment is correct. The Sukhoi T-4 Sotka, the forgotten Mach 3 bomber, while America built the SR-71, the Soviets built their own Mach 3 aircraft. Not a spy plane, but a strike bomber designed to destroy US carrier groups, built from titanium and high-temperature alloys. 4 prototypes were completed. The program was cancelled in 1974, not by technical failure, but by Soviet bureaucratic rivalry, when Tupolev successfully lobbied to have the superior Sukhoi design killed in favor of their own Tu-22M. One prototype survives at Monino Air Force Museum. A weapon killed by politics, not physics. The KH-55 Granat, the stealth cruise missile. A subsonic terrain-following nuclear cruise missile with a 2,500-kilometer range and a 200-kiloton warhead. Its low radar cross-section and low-altitude flight profile kept it below radar coverage for most of its trajectory. NATO did not understand its true capabilities until the mid-1980s. When Ukraine inherited 1,068 of them after 1991, most were transferred to Russia under international pressure. In 2005, it emerged that Ukraine had secretly sold 12 to Iran and 6 to China during the 1990s. The missile designed to strike the West had proliferated to exactly the countries the West feared most. Terra 3, the blinding laser, a directed energy weapon complex at Seri-Shagan, Kazakhstan, designed to track and blind American reconnaissance satellites. In October 1984, Space Shuttle Challenger passed over the site. The crew reported visual disturbances and navigation disruption. The US filed a formal protest. The Soviets denied everything. Declassified documents later confirmed Terra 3 had been operated during Challenger's pass, the first confirmed use of a directed energy weapon against a manned spacecraft. Polyus/Skiff-DM, the space cannon. In May 1987, the Soviet Union launched a 77-ton prototype orbital weapons platform carrying a megawatt-class laser designed to destroy American satellites. Due to a software orientation error, it failed to achieve orbit and fell into the Pacific. The launch was never officially acknowledged, disclosed only after the USSR collapsed. Had it achieved orbit, it would have been the first armed military satellite in history. A single software error may have prevented the militarization of space by 3 decades. The R-36 Orb, AOBS, the missile from the South American NORAD radar networks, faced north, because Soviet ICBMs would fly over the Arctic. The R-36 Orb placed a nuclear warhead in a fractional orbit and sent it south over Antarctica instead, approaching the United States from the direction NORAD's radars were not watching. Warning time, 0. Operational since 1969. Declared to the United States only in 1983 under SALT II. When American negotiators learned of it, they understood that for 14 years, the US had had no radar coverage against the attack profile the Soviets had actually planned to use. The A-35 Galosh, Moscow's secret shield. While publicly negotiating arms control, Moscow quietly built the only operational ballistic missile defense system in the world. The A-35 surrounded Moscow with nuclear-tipped interceptors designed to destroy incoming warheads by detonating a nuclear weapon against a nuclear weapon. The system remains operational today as the upgraded A-135. For decades, Moscow was the only city on Earth protected against ballistic missile attack, while Soviet negotiators insisted missile defense was destabilizing and signed treaties limiting the very shields they were already deploying.